Wednesday afternoon and said, "You can all go fuck yourself. We're not going to work for you anymore."
Shut up and sit down.
So we were. All right, perfect. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us for the latest episode of the Feeling Optimist. I'm actually very excited about this episode. To say that Claudio is one of the more interesting people I've ever met. We had a moment a couple months ago in South Africa where we essentially stayed up the entire night and swapped war stories. And when I say swap war stories, I thought I had war stories. It feels like you've lived like 4 different lives.
I've had experience.
Serial entrepreneur, he's going to go through his own story, so I don't want to steal his thunder. But exactly the kind of person that I think the podcast is designed to be. So without further ado, we're going to follow our tradition where we're going to give our guests exactly 120 seconds to go through whatever version of your life story you want to give us.
Okay.
Your time starts now.
I think one of the things that makes me interesting is I've never gotten a job. So what was valuable to my father growing up, whether it be cutting the grass, pulling the weeds, started a landscaping business behind it. And then from there, I just engineered just different opportunities out of what happened in life. Dad had a heart attack, gave the business to my brother, started a meat and seafood business, went to college. When I got to college, in my senior year, we had a hurricane. I used the college tuition money to buy a bunch of chainsaws. And so like you get the point. I worked on Wall Street for 12 years. I got into a bad car accident, and out of that, the lesson I learned actually for myself was who's going to take care of you when you get older. So that's a very difficult question for most people. And I would never want to be in the position where it would be the state. I don't think anybody would like the treatment they receive. So I had decided at the time that I needed to make money without having to work. So I bought an apartment building and continued on replicating that over and over for 12 years until COVID. And then I thought it would be interesting to start something new because nobody was showing property. People were just shut down. They weren't doing anything. I thought it was a good time to get into a new business. And I got into the marketing business.
It's so interesting to me because, we work with a lot of young entrepreneurs. This work with a lot of young entrepreneurs that really struggle to have the discipline to run a business. And, I've watched you over the last 4 or 5 years. I don't want to say you've done this as a hobby, but I feel like not doing the business or not doing a business because you don't need to make money out of it also changes the game.
That changes. Yeah, that changes how you walk out the door in the morning, and how you feel.
Yeah.
But I will say, I tried stopping work and stopping doing anything. As a human being, I think you always fall to the lowest common denominator. If there isn't something there that, hey, listen, this is what I have to get done, or some type of goal I'm moving toward, it gets ugly. It definitely, very quickly.
All right. Obviously, as is the format of the podcast, we have a bowl full of random questions about entrepreneurial experiences. So we're both going to answer these. So please feel free to dig in, take whichever one you want.
This is a great one. Where do you stand on dating or being dated as an entrepreneur? Okay.
You want to go? Obviously, I can only speak from personal experience. I feel more sorry for the partner of the entrepreneur than I do for the entrepreneur. I don't think we're the easiest people in the world to be around because in order, I think, to be in a relationship with an entrepreneur, you have to understand that sometimes you're not going to be the priority. And I think if your partner isn't like sure enough in themselves to know. And that doesn't mean that you don't love the person that you're with, but
So, like, has it ever like come to like your thought process, like, oh, is this person do they have any ulterior motive? I know it's hard, like in the whole dating thing, but
I've never had that, but I've had friends ask me about that. I think I'm just a pretty good judge of character. I'm not attracted to people like that in general. Just don't tend to move in the same circles. But yeah, I think in order to successfully date an entrepreneur, you've got to understand that at some point
you're not going to be number one.
You're not going to be number one. You're going to be number two.
Yeah,
business or whatever the business needs, and that could be on a couple months basis, or that could be it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you've got to go take care of something in your business. Your phone goes off, you get out of bed and disappear off for a day or two. And I don't think, unless the person's sure enough of themselves, I think it's very difficult.
Would obviously you're not going to be number one, and letting like your partner know that. I think letting them know that up front. So whereas like there is like a daily, like a ritual of things that we do, where if I take a bunch of guys out to dinner, like I won't let my partner know, hey, listen, I'll be home at 11 o'clock. I just won't be there. So maybe I have a special situation. Maybe my partner doesn't love me as much.
Your partner don't want to
it would be difficult. I'm not one of the people that asks for permission. I'll ask for forgiveness.
All right, let's see what my question is. All right. In order to be successful in your businesses, what personality trait has to die?
Complacency. I think for most people, getting started and doing anything is always the hardest part. So whether you want to run like an online business, just the getting started part, setting up the account, it's always the hardest part. So it would be that, like the fear of the unknown. You can't have that as an entrepreneur. It doesn't matter if you fail, but you have to move forward and do the thing. And the complacency and not doing the first thing, the second thing, the third thing, would be something you have to leave behind.
I said arrogance. There's a caveat to this, because I do think that in order to be a successful entrepreneur, you do have to have a bit of a chip on your shoulder, and you do have to think, I'm not the same as other people. I don't want the same as other people.
Do you think entrepreneurs are smarter than other people?
No, I don't.
They're some of the dumbest people, though, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of statistics to show that there's a much higher percentage of people that go into entrepreneurialism to
average
great people, because they didn't do that well in the traditional, like, the way that the world's built for most people, and they had to go find their own path. I think I had to learn to blend humility with that arrogance. Yes. I made it to for everyone, but certainly as a younger man, I was convinced that I was the smartest person in the room, and I was always right, and other people's opinion was secondary to my own. And until that part of my personality went away, I really, because nobody wants to work for something like that.
Nobody does.
Wants to work for it. It's good if you want to do sales. It's good. It's good for making money. Selling shit if you think that you're right all the time. But just nobody wants to work for something like that, and especially in the nature of startups, that having a manager that you go to do a job. Let's take a Starbucks or a McDonald's or whatever it might be. You could work a job for a manager that you don't like. I just think if you work in a more traditional business model, you go to work for the money, right? But if you're going to get involved with any kind of startup or build a business alongside an entrepreneur, which is really that's who we spend most of our time with.
Would you say a performance-based business or a performance-based job would be like parallel to running a business?
Not only is the same thing. Let's take a performance-based job. Let's say I'm a bricklayer, and I'm really good at being a bricklayer. Just the quality of my work is a much bigger factor in being successful. If I'm a really good bricklayer, I can kind of be a dick But if my work's outstanding, I'll still get worried. It doesn't work like that for an entrepreneur. All right, next one. Okay, this one's tough. Have you ever looked in the mirror and genuinely not liked the person looking back?
I think everybody has that moment,
When was it? When was yours? When was yours?
So I would say, like, when you're failing, it's tough to look in the mirror. Like, I'm sorry. They close off your electricity and you go out in the back and you turn it back on. Like, maybe not I don't want to be that person and look that person in the mirror. But as long as I was still putting 100% into it, I don't think I was ever disgusted with what was looking back. I obviously was disappointed it was taking so long. I was disappointed it didn't work out sooner. I think everybody feels that way. Everyone wants, especially today, everyone wants it to happen yesterday, and having the long-term vision is a more difficult view to have.
But there was never a moment where you were like, oh, you're a dick.
No, I've always treated people good. I've always overpaid people, and I've lived by that. Like, I would rather overpay someone or give them the benefit of the doubt before all right, well, that's contestable. It's not contestable for me. I'm going to pay you. So maybe some people, don't see it that way. Like maybe my grandfather wouldn't be so much like that.
I remember the moment. I'd done very well. I run my own business. My first 6 to 12 months of running my own business didn't go that well. But then I finally got a client that we could kind of run with. And the next 18 months were really unbelievable. At one point, I was running on the national campaign averages. I was running the number 1, 2 office in the UK at the time. I was running one office on residential sales and running one office on event sales. I had 45, 50 guys, and the success went to my head.
Oh.
And I, for the first time and last time in my life, I looked at the people that worked for me as a way for me to make money. I was like, go and make me money. And I stopped really going to work that much. I certainly stopped working hard. I stopped having the kind of mentoring conversations that had got me into that situation. It's very difficult for me to look back at that version of myself because it's so far away from
where how you grew out of that.
I don't know how I got so lost in that success, because it wasn't as if I was a millionaire. I just had a good year and a half and was making really good money and stuff. And there was a moment I went from having 45 guys in the field to 3 guys in the field in 10 days.
Oh, wow.
Because
businesses are so, I think most people don't understand. Businesses are very difficult to build and to work and operate, and day after day, like your foot has to be 100% on the gas, floored all the time.
Still yet to meet anybody that lost 40 employees in a week and a half, though.
Yeah, but you also can break it very easily. Like it's amazing how hard it was to build it, and then you can break it in 42 seconds. You can break it in an afternoon.
And I broke it by stopping being the person that built it. So yes, I looked at that person because as you said, there's the initial, it's not happening, I'll fix it, and then I was like, I can't believe I'm in this situation. How can this possibly have happened? And I was looking in the mirror. I was like, this is why it happened. I'm just not the person that people would want to work with or would want to be around or would want to, that it was terrible.
And so what do you think was your biggest lesson out of that? Because for most people, that's where they fail. Yeah. Right at that point. I made a lot of money, and I had 50 guys and I was doing well for a long period of time. And then it falls apart. How do you pick back up and really like look within. Do you think if you didn't have someone around you to do that, you'd be in business right now?
He covered the expenses of my business for like 6 weeks. He was like, I'll pay for all the expenses, but you have to recommit to going back to being that person.
Someone doesn't help you. How do you think where do you think you land? It doesn't mean that you're not an entrepreneur.
Because the answer to your question is, I don't think I was an entrepreneur.
Okay.
I think I was a person that was transitioning from being a really good sales manager into becoming an entrepreneur, but I don't think I was an entrepreneur because I don't think an entrepreneur needs that, but I did, which is one of the reasons why at the time, you know, I own my own business, etc., but I don't think it from I was 18 months, less than 2 years into my entrepreneurial journey. In my mind, I was telling myself I was an entrepreneur, but I wasn't. I was still a kind of glorified sales manager that needed support. If that was to happen today, I don't need anybody now. Now I'm like, you know, go away, find your own solutions. Next question for you, sir.
What's something you achieved that meant far less than you expected it would?
I can answer this if you want a minute to think about it.
Go ahead.
Every major materialistic thing I've ever bought. every time I've had an aspiration to have, you know, a certain car or buy a certain watch or live in a certain place or get a certain, you know, type of apartment or certain type of house. Every single time I'm like, when I get this thing, I'll be happy. When I get this thing, I'll be happy. When I get this thing, I'll be happy. Not that I wasn't happy, but the joy was so short-lived. You know, I bought, you know, not even that long ago, I bought a really expensive watch that I'd wanted for a really long time. And I got the watch and I was really excited. I felt a sense of achievement. And within 2 weeks, I was like, all right, that's a cool watch. You know, I think we talked about this very briefly today. I've been disappointed with almost all of the material things I've ever aspired to get for myself.
I don't think there's anything that you can put a number to. I know when I was working on Wall Street, like my aspiration was to buy a Gulfstream 4. And anytime I did get closer to that number. And when I looked at it, you don't want it anymore. Sure.
All right. Next question. We're ripping through these. All right. You might be able to relate to this one. Tell me about the biggest bluff that you've ever pulled off.
What's the term? Like fake it till you make it? I have sat down with numerous CEOs when I was on Wall Street and numerous people whose property I bought. And I had convinced the seller that his life was in danger just coming to pick up the rent. Because of the way he drove, because of the way he carried himself, you know, and it was in the Bronx. So like we're in the Bronx. I get along fine in the Bronx. Everybody loves me. But him, maybe not so much. You just don't show up in a Rolls Royce. You don't show up like, you know, with a $60,000 watch on your hand. He was in danger.
And maybe you did save.
Yeah, I think I did save his life, and I mentioned it. You know, I said, you do want to see your daughter. You do want to walk your daughter down the aisle. Yeah, I really laid the emotion on, and I got a really good deal on that property as a result.
Mine was in Brazil. So we only had, at one point, we only had 2 clients in Brazil, both big charities. And I'm not gonna mention the name of the charity we're working with because we still do business with them in some capacity. And we really couldn't afford to lose half of our clients, aka one of them. But I didn't like the way that they were treating us. I didn't like the way that they were talking to us. And I didn't like the amount of money that they were paying us. So on a whim, without permission from anybody, I turned around on a Wednesday afternoon and said, you can all go fuck yourself. We're not going to work for you anymore. Which is probably not the appropriate way to do business. And we certainly could not afford to not have them as a client. but I was like, fuck it. And I was kind of at my end in the rope with them. And they made me sweat a little bit because I told them to go fuck off. And they were like, fine, we'll never do business with you again. I was like, fine, whatever. And they left it about a week and a half. And it was really a race as to who was going to crack first. And I had maybe another 24 hours in before I was making a call to be like,
Oh.
I've made a mistake. I apologize. Is there any way that we can is there any way that we can kind of reconcile? Which I'm sure would not have been good for the whole like position that we're in. But they cracked first.
Yeah.
They were like, we have to hit these targets this year. We have to get this budget spent this year. And you guys we're too deep into the year to not have you guys doing the service that you do. And they came back and almost doubled the money that they were paying us. And that relationship was very different going forward. I remember sitting down.
Did you earn more respect from doing that?
No, they fired us at the end of next year.
Oh.
But by that point, we had more clients, which was fine. But that was a bluff because I knew we couldn't afford to not have them. But
Yeah.
I was like, I also am not sure we can afford to be paid what we're being paid. So roll the dice, and he went away. And some of my client brokers were unhappy, to say the least. They were like, you need to call them and apologize. I was like, I'm not going to. Open it. Next question. What is a future project that you haven't got to yet, and what's holding you back?
So there is actually one thing that I'm working on right now in the digital marketing space. Over the next 10 years, I believe there will be 1 trillion products sold on TikTok. And I don't think you need to be the most brilliant person to make money. Although whatever project I roll out is just a part of me, so it will be way above average because I wouldn't do it if it wasn't. But I think for most kids, like you can, if you want to do digital marketing, you can sell other people's stuff and see how good you are at digital marketing. And you can learn in real time. That's why I said before, like in the performance-based business, you can learn in real time. As an entrepreneur, there's not much difference that lives between those two things. You don't think?
I guess maybe I misunderstood the question, but what I mean by the difference between kind of performance being an entrepreneur, I think you can do something well enough for it to make sense to be paid based off of your performance. Like I used to talk about bricklaying or sales or being a freelancer or being even a digital marketer. But I think there's a big gap between being outstanding at the thing that you do and then being able to build and scale a business and manage other people and run staff and train and coach and all of the stuff that's involved. The podcast was one of the projects that I was getting involved. I was doing this for a couple of years because I think that the message that we're trying to give to entrepreneurs for everyone that's coming on is strap yourself in. It's going to be a ride.
Oh, yeah.
I'm very tired of seeing people project this version of entrepreneurialism that's like, sure, work 4 hours a week and you'll be a millionaire. So one of the reasons
that's not true.
No, I've been led to. That's not been my.
It's not been my experience either. I think most people, always look for the shortcut. And as an entrepreneur, like it doesn't exist. It's just easier to do the hard work because as we were talking before the podcast, like it takes more effort to do like some scam rug pull thing about that girl we were talking about. Like it just do it legitimately. You'll make more money over a longer period of time. Maybe you don't make as much money this month or this for 6 months, but over time,
you get to keep it.
You don't have to worry about who's knocking on your door at 5 o'clock in the morning, and you can sleep at night.
That's one of the reasons why I want to start this. My midterm goal is I'm also in the process of starting a clothing apparel business.
Okay.
So I don't know if you know this about me, but one of my long-term goals is to be a stand-up comedian.
Oh,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So I really want to be a
You're not funny though.
That's the only problem.
That's the problem.
Disconnection. I'm still learning that. So I'm starting a clothing business that's in line with that. It's basically clothing with inappropriately dark humor on it, because I'm a big believer that uh, censoring humor, like I think the world got to a place where people are looking to be offended, and I don't think people should be able to tell you what you can and can't wear and say. I do understand the concept of being respectful, and I'm for that.
Why do you think there's offensive speech?
I don't think there's offensive jokes. It's also really easy to just walk away from a situation if you don't like it. You're like, if I don't like the t-shirt that you're wearing, just don't hang out.
Yeah.
Don't be.
Yeah, like don't wear it.
Just don't.
Have you ever walked away from a conversation and said, "Oh my God, that was so offensive. That guy's so offensive"?
I've walked away from a million conversations because I didn't align with the thing that the person was saying. So I walked away from the conversation.
But it wasn't like, "Oh my God, this is so crazy off color that I'm offended." I don't think I've ever been offended by anything that anyone's ever told me.
I've been shocked by the difference in somebody's opinion to the opinion that I have. Like that's happened a million times. I mean, we've done sales for years. So people say some shit, and I'm like, I have no idea why you would think that thing. But I've also never been like, I don't think you have the right to say that thing in front of me. So the whole goal of the clothing brand is to give people the opportunity. If you want to wear a dark humor t-shirt or hoodie, you can do. We're also going to be selling greetings cards. There's not going to be everybody that wants to wear an offensive humor. It's like, but we've all got that friend that we'd buy a birthday card.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then my long-term passion project is to run a small business incubator, a lot like kind of Shark's Tank or Dragon's Den. I would like to know how many entrepreneurs don't make it because there isn't somebody there to just tell them that it's supposed to feel like this.
Yeah, but do you think, so I have never had the business where, or started a business where like I need money before I can start. It's always been, okay, I'm going to just do it on a smaller level because this is all I can afford right now. And then grow out and get bigger and bigger. And then all of a sudden
the money just allows you to do it faster.
Yeah.
And if it's because
but it has to, like, you have to prove concept. It has to work.
But we also do live in a world, speed to market is probably more important than it's ever been because the ability to copy ideas is easier than it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
But I'm not sure that I would invest in, okay, speed to market's important, but you didn't sell anything yet. Prove to me you can sell the thing, a thing.
And that's the part that intrigues me, right?
Yeah.
Is that I'm really interested. Let's say it's a drone business, right? Like I don't know anything about drones, but I do know about scaling businesses and getting funding. Not really, but like, you know, going to a bank and pitching a bank for money and knowing when to hire your first employee and knowing how to conduct an interview and knowing when you should fire somebody and how to scale things and how to systemize things. And I would like to be involved with growing businesses. Not that I'll necessarily know about drones. Hopefully the founder will know about drones, but I do think I know based off of my years of scaling businesses, how to scale business. And I'd like to, the Shark Tank Dragon's Den thing comes in is that I would like to work with entrepreneurs that have got a really good idea or really proof of concept. All right, final.
What's something you were obsessed with in your first year that you now realize doesn't matter at all?
I've got an answer for this straight off the dome. I was obsessed with how my office space looked. And I was like, if I've got the right desk and the right lighting and I've got the right trophies on the wall and I've got the right pictures and I've got the right aesthetic and I've got comfortable sofas in reception. And I'm not saying that those things are completely unimportant, but if me having the right lighting in my personal office is the deciding factor between me being able to build a business and not, I'm probably fucking doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And I spent so much money in the first year of my business, you know, like buying overpriced office equipment and buying overpriced conference tables and buying stupid leather chairs. Because in my mind, I was like, well, if I think that this is cool, you know, I'm going to attract the right kind of people. And my opinion now is that has nothing to do with fucking nothing. And as
Yeah.
long as long as you're not working from a street corner, I do appreciate there has to be a certain level of aesthetics in order for people to be like, okay, this is a legitimate business.
Mhm.
But past the legitimacy of the business not being in question, I think that shit's completely irrelevant. Because I think that I'm the value of the business.
That's so true. I don't think I've ever really been obsessed, but when I was younger,
There must have been
so like when I was younger, I worked on Wall Street. So, it was the watches, the cars, the boats, the women, the strip bars. I think it was more of like
Was that like a real thing? You had like an expenses account with the company you work for?
Not so much like an expense account at the strip bar. My best friend had a credit line at in New York. I could still go to the place, but a six-figure credit line a strip club that he used to
Max out.
max out
That's when you know.
max out really quickly. Yeah, you're not only successful, but you're also on the wrong path when you're maxing out like a six-figure credit line in a strip club.
Hashtag goals, I guess. Hashtag goals.
Yeah, maybe, I think it's just different when you're younger. Like there are different businesses where you spend money, like the marketing business that we do. I wouldn't spend that money as easy as I would spend, like some of the Wall Street money.
Yep.
You can't make $900,000 on a Tuesday, and when you do make $900,000 on a Tuesday and you go out and spend 50 grand, it's not that big of a deal because the numbers are bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you work for every dollar,
you work for a year, make 50 grand, you're not going out and spending 50.
You're not going out and spending 50,000. So it sounds crazy. Like, who would spend 100 grand a month on hookers? Well, I know a lot of people who would do that.
If you want, you can introduce me to that group of friends. I'm down to be involved. All right. We're almost out of time, so we're just gonna, I guess, finish with our closing tradition. We ask all of our guests to give us a question that they would like to hear from one of the future guests that we're going to throw into the pot to continue to grow the question. So, what is your question that you would like to propose for our next guests?
So, what is something that you didn't start that still disappoints you to this day?
Like, what was your kind of business regret?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
The opportunity.
The opportunity that you didn't take that you still think about.
Okay. That's a really good question. Find out the answer in a future podcast. Thank you so much to Claudio for joining us. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, mate.
Yeah.
And we'll continue this offline. Cheers, man. Have a nice afternoon.
That was easy.